We're going to update the clutches. New spring in the secondary, 4 new flyweights along with 2 of the OEM flyweights will be going back into the primary. So here we're going to start off with removing the belt. Thread the tool in here to remove the belt. This actually comes with the car. So thread it in into that position in between the holes for the options where you put your spring for the helix. Take the bolt. This is actually one that comes in your kit with the car, and thread that in, but before you make contact with the actual helix, use a small piece of material. What I've actually used here is, you'll see a dime. Just had it in my pocket, threw that in between there. That allowed the bolt to act on that rather than on the actual helix itself. So keep from scoring that up and damaging it on that. Go ahead and thread the bolt in all the way and release the 2 halves of your secondary. And that gives you room so that your belt can come down in and you can get the belt off of the secondary, and then you'll take it around the primary to actually get the bolt removed. And again, I'm using just the tools right now that came with the car. And the same thing goes with taking the cover off. You're going to be doing out there in the trail sometime, so you're going to have that kit with you. You should at least. I'm going to say make sure that you've got those tools with you. Even if you've got your own tool kit that you put together over time, keeping these tools in there, you'll know you've got them. Here we're removing the bolt off of the secondary. Get that bolt threaded out of there, and then you can just simply slide the secondary assembly right off the shaft and go ahead and set that off out of the way. Now, to get your primary off and get in there to it, you'd take the links off of your sway bar and take it off of both sides, and then you can go ahead and swing that arm up out of the way. Now you can get in there with your impact gun. Get that in there, back this bolt all the way out off of the primary. Here's the pushing bolt that actually goes and threads in, and you're going to thread it through one hole, and then that's going to get in there all the way till it stops by hand. Then you can put your impact on there, and you'll watch a lot of videos, and they hit it a couple times with these heavier duty 1/2-inch Milwaukee impacts, and a couple bumps and pop. It's pretty violent sounding pop, but boom, it comes loose, and then you can back that bolt all the way out, take your primary out of the way, put it up on the bench. Take this bolt again, put it back in. You want to thread it down in there, and then from the top of that head down to the shoulder, 1.5 inches is where you want that adjusted and set. Then you'll take the plate and put this internal collar in there, and then you'll take the 6 Allen headed screws and you'll line those up with the primary housing, put those screws in there, tighten them down, and snug them up with the Allen wrench. You can use an impact if you want, and take this other bolt, thread it back down in there. Now, at this point in time, you've got a handle that comes with this kit from Alba Racing, and thread that in there because you're going to want to hold that handle while you take this impact right now and act against that other bolt. And you do that, and it's going to pop loose, and you're going to feel it. Boom. Once it does, back that off. Take the 6 Allen head screws back out. Now you can remove that top plate out of the way.
There you go.
And take the handle back out of it and continue to move forward. Now, with this out of the way, you'll actually be able to take that bolt back out, get that out, and then you can actually put a mark here, because you want to make sure that you go back together with it the same way that it came apart, so it's indexed properly. Now, if all you're doing is maintenance on the clutch, you want to go around and check all the weights and make sure that they're moving free. If they're not, then you need to take the bolt out that holds them in, and be careful because there's a thrust washer on each side, and then the bushing in the middle. And again, this is on the OEM, and this is off of a 2019 RC. So you can see here we've got a kit from KMS. This kit comes with a spring and 4 new weights, and you'll put those 4 weights across from each other, and the 2 OEM weights, as you can see there still. So after you get them all put in, check them and make sure that they're tight. You don't need to over tighten these bolts that hold the weights in. Also, you want to make sure that everything's cleaned up good and get this all put back in place so that everything's sitting secure, and the bushings and stuff internal that ride on the weights, make sure that those are indexed properly and sitting with a flat surface against the weights. set that back on top of itself, and everything's good for now. It can just sit there off to the side. When you get over to the secondary, there's an arrow. That's what I'm marking here with the Sharpie, so that you make sure that those arrows are going to line back up whenever you take it apart. Now, if you're working with the OEM and you're not doing any upgrades, pay attention to what hole your spring is located in, and you're going to want to mark that at this point in time. So it really isn't going to matter, and we'll actually not need to mark it for this particular situation. Now, I'm not working with the vise right here on the toolbox, so I'm just simply taking it, putting one of the shouldered collars in there on the bottom, and I'll put it in from the top side there at the helix, and I'll flip it over and put the other collar in there, and that's like a bushing essentially that goes in there and kind of indexes it, keeps everything in line with that all thread. And then grab this handle. It's got a threaded nut on it. And that handle, you just take it and run it all the way down until it makes contact, and it just needs to be snug by hand, not real tight. Just run it up to where it stops. Then you got 3 bolts on the back side there of your secondary, and it's got a Torx head or a regular socket head, and you can go ahead and bust that loose with your impact. Take those 3 screws out, and then with not having this in a vise, you're gonna have to take a wrench on the one side and then use your hand to crank it loose on the other side, back it all the way off. And keep in mind that nut that is down there on the other side, you have to have it set low enough so that you can back this all the way off without having any spring tension. Now we pull out the factory spring, take the new goodies out of the bag here. You'll notice this spring doesn't have the indexing ends on the spring, so it kind of gives it a free float on the helix. So as you'll notice, the guys from KMS will even say that you'll notice after doing this that you go to put it in gear and you kind of hear a little bit of a clunk. I've noticed that a little bit even with the stock setup, but yeah, you can notice it, and it doesn't have that pre-tension on it. But that spring setup was really working good. And we're just going to go back, putting in the primary. You'll see that I'm putting the primary in here, and I'm going to cut this video a little bit short and put the secondary in, put the belt back, and you should be good to go. So hope you enjoyed the video.